Welcome to Soulful Practices Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Holling-Brooks, and over the past 20 years, I have been on a journey of healing and awakening. I'm also a coach and practitioner for clients on their journey of unbridling their true self. The number one question I'm asked is, what meditation or practice will help me reach my goals? While there is no one meditation or secret mantra that will unlock our own awakening, there is a doorway that will lead us there. And that's the doorway of learning and cultivating the skills of self-reflection and contemplation. Each episode of this podcast offers you pocket teachings and practices that you can implement right away to help you courageously connect with living your authentic soul-led life. Let's dive into this week's episode. Michelle Holling-Brooks here, the host of Soulful Practices. And in this episode, we are going to be exploring one of the core concepts that really comes as a exploration in a healing journey and an awakening journey. And it really is truly a component for courageously connecting, which is the theme for season 4 of the podcast this season. And this is cultivating self-respect, really breaking the habit of dismissing ourselves or undermining ourselves and or not giving our self-worth or our thoughts quote credence, so that we can then step into some of the things that we were talking about in the last few episodes of releasing then some of those shadow ways that we work with this concept, seek to have somebody grant us or give us permission to give us respect, and working with that and all the different shadow ways that we really get gummed up in that. So this episode really represents a core tenet, or what I would call a pillar, as we are building out. In my model, I call it the bridge of connection. So that's my trademark method that I came up with, and self-respect is the second pillar. So the first one is building self-trust, which is everything that we've been talking about this season and really throughout all of Soulful Practices, which is how do we build an ability to believe in ourselves, to trust ourselves, to say what we mean and mean what we say, to when we look inward, to take our shoes off, so to speak, on sacred ground, and to treat ourselves with quote respect. Like, how do we start to know that we're going to consistently try to show up? We're open and willing to receive feedback, and we are seeking that. We're seeking our inner sanctum, quote unquote, to help us do this other thing that I call a U-turn, and turning back on ourselves to say, okay, not with shame and blame and wagging our finger, like, why did you do that? You're so stupid. Like, not having that harsh inner critic, but really coming from that place of like, I want to understand what's driving me here. So it's the medicine of understanding, the medicine of discernment, the medicine of curiosity and compassion, all coming with us. And that's what we look at and start to develop in that first pillar of trust. This second pillar is what comes online when it says, how do I respect myself? How do I show up for myself? How do I talk to myself? How do I connect to myself? And how really do I give myself regards? The different aspects of me. And ultimately, when we have healthy self respect and self esteem, we esteem ourselves well on board, then we have that ability to courageously connect with ourselves and every aspect of our life in a way in which truly matches who we want to be, who we're guided to be, and not that conditioned survival habitual self that just kind of shows up because that's the one that's kind of gotten us through. That's the one that needed to be there when we didn't have as many degrees of freedom or didn't have that sense of self on board that we've been developing on this healing and awakening journey, right? So in this episode, we're really going to explore this kind of key concept of developing self-respect. Why? So that we can help that egoic self, that mental being, that really the mental being's main job is for us to survive at all costs, to keep the system going with as much quote grace and ease as possible. But it doesn't really have sacred ground. It doesn't have an allegiance to our heart and our soul being. It has an allegiance to our protective trauma responses, survival responses, tribal responses. That's what it has an allegiance to. And it thinks it just has to hold to that because that's the only way. And as we start to develop these other aspects of us and have more validity in them and belief in them, then we can really befriend the mind and help it kind of soften and realize, oh, there is a structure here. There is healthy boundary setting. There's a way to have compromise. There's a way to, even when we feel like a situation is absolutely not what we want, not what we think should be there, that there is still a way to soften and to give ourselves that worth, and from that worth and from that place of belief in self, we can then choose the choice that is going to bring us the most balance possible in that moment. All of that is possible, but we don't get further in the quote bridge until we open up to this idea of self respect. And honestly, what you're going to start to see is that it's really hard to quote truly give like a true gift, instead of a weird shadow dance in exchange to another being, to inspiration in our lives, to that spark of creation. It's hard to do any of that and to give that level of true respect to something as its own being, and to have that when we're kind of struggling to give this to ourselves. So this is something that the more we give to ourselves, the more we can give to others, and the more we can offer that, and the stronger everything grows, like the true version of empowerment. So respect is one of those words that is very much like faith and trust and empowerment. These have like big esoteric terms. And when you ask somebody, tell me what trust means. Tell me what respect means. Tell me what empowerment means to me. Tell me what sentient means to you. When you ask those questions, you start to get out to the edges of, well, I don't know. It's something like dot dot dot, right? It becomes disembodied really fast. So the quote esoteric. It's really can get out there super fast. And what I like to do is give definitions that are grounded. What is grounded, healthy self-respect? Because I can, for the longest time, if you had asked me this question, I would have told you, yeah, I have self-respect. Well, what I had was self-defensiveness. That's what I had. And what I had was then behind that defensiveness was well, I don't know, is that true? Is that not true? And it was something that somebody could quote gut pretty quickly with even just a look or of their sound, like they could really truly, it was like that brittle wall that if you just like dinged it in the right place, the whole thing crumbled, right? And so how do we go from this like self-defensiveness, right? Or from a self loathing, or a worthlessness, or whatever it is that we're up to, how do we start to really build a grounded, healthy self respect, and something that we can feel, that we can allow ourselves to sink into, to pull on, like a lifeline when the others around us or life around us we feel doesn't offer that to us, doesn't see our worth, doesn't give us that. That's what I want to explore today, and start just with some simple practices that you can begin to start to excavate, and explore, discover, and cultivate that healthy self-respect. So that's what we are up to in this episode. Um, so just take a moment and just answer for yourself, like, what do you view it means when you say, I have a healthy, grounded self-respect? What would that feel like in you? What would that look like? Like, I'm looking at somebody and I go, oh, I'm pretty sure they have a healthy self-respect, or I feel that when I'm around this person. Like, think of somebody that you believe really exemplifies this quality. What does it feel like to be around them? What does it look like in motion? Like when they walk into a room, is it something they demand? Is it something that is loud? Is it quiet? Does it have a presence or is it like unseen? What does it feel like to be in dialogue with somebody? Either your own self when you're in this energy, like I can be in dialogue with myself, or externally with somebody else. Like, what have you experienced with somebody that you feel embodies this again? So typically, some of those things are that you feel what I would say is sentience, like somebody sees that I have my own independent thoughts, my own independent feelings, my own independent hopes and dreams and wants and desires and voice, right? That and they're allowing me to have that and they can have theirs and they don't have to match and we can both honor each other's, right? So when I feel that in somebody else's field, I feel truly that. Like they could be like, "Well, I can see where that's coming from for you. I respect that in you. And I respect and give myself permission to have something different." So a part of respect is that we don't have to match somebody else's opinions, thoughts, wants, wishes, and ideas in order to respect it. So that really when we start to work on self-work, like this is I can have a part of me that has its own completely independent story from another part of me. And they don't have to match, they don't cancel each other out, they don't one isn't valid and one is. It's like, nope, none of that is true. It steps us into true, quote, dualistic thinking where more than one point of view can be true at the same time, right? And each one is valid and they don't cancel each other out. They're completely independent variables. So when I start to give myself that right that I can work with myself within that, then I naturally give that to another, right? I naturally give those rights, those ideas, those ways of being to myself and to the other. And this is where I start to say we're quote cooking with grace now. Now we're working with a different frequency that can work across the levels of consciousness, can seek understanding with the different levels of consciousness that might be available to, and then choose from partnership with our soul and with our heart of how to best show up in relationship to that. And once we're in that place, then from this place, the theme of this season is courageously connecting. I can be in the act of connecting with someone, with myself, with another, but I can do it through this dance that includes self respect. And that question that I always invite clients to kind of check on this pillar within themselves is do I have regards for my own thoughts, feelings, and the impact that my choices will have on myself and on others? And when we have a healthy self respect, we're not trying to marginalize, dismiss, diminish, undermine a thought, a feeling of a part of us or a part of another. So it doesn't mean again that we're a doormat. I think that this is the thing that we really hit on a lot, especially on the side where we're working with families and reunification on the equine partnered psychotherapy side. Is that a lot of times they say, well, if you would respect me, you would do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, that's not respect. That's saying I want compliance, that I want you to comply with my request. Respect is something totally different. Respect says, I understand. I honor that this is your thoughts, your feelings, your wishes, and your desire, full stop. And this is also what I can and cannot do, right? This is what I have the capacity to give, or this is what I am being guided to give or to not give. So sometimes the way I'm being guided to show up isn't going to match and indulge and just comply with whatever request is given to me. Sometimes I'm very often being told on my own inner guidance to say no to a request because that request might be coming from a shadow protective need or an old trauma response, a part that doesn't really honor the whole, and it would really be harmful, quote, to say yes to that request. So self-respect and a healthy respect for myself and for the other would be saying no, because if we said yes, we would be doing harm and doing harm to ourselves and allowing the other to do harm to themselves because it's indulging a shadow part of themselves, right? It's indulging a fear, a trauma, a moving from a an unmet need or hurt in the system demanding itself to be met now in the present time out of context, right? To what's called shadow healing, and we just don't want to do that. And so that would be an act of healthy self-respect and respect for the others. Would be, I have regards for you, I can see it, I can understand it, I even got an idea of where that imbalance is coming from. And the best way for me to, quote, tend to that is to say no, to not indulge it or not to comply, and actually consent to a higher version of something guiding me. So to have respect for somebody doesn't mean I agree. It doesn't mean that I indulge. It doesn't mean that I comply. It doesn't mean that I just automatically push aside a part of me that's talking and sharing so that you feel happy and that I am willing to do what you're asking me to do as a sign of respect. It's like, no, no, no. Actually, none of that belongs in here. So it's not based on whether somebody feels good about what it is that I'm doing. It's the question of what am I up to? Do I have regards for what's there? Do I understand that when I make a choice, it's going to impact the other? And do I allow that other to have whatever feelings they want to have about it? That if I know if it's coming from a place of wholeness within me, that it's inviting the other into wholeness. And for kiddos, when we're working with this with kids in the bridge of connection, it's can they understand it? Can we convey why we're doing what we're doing in a way that even if it doesn't give them the quote what they want in that moment, they can understand or at least have a little bit of a allowing them to feel exactly how they feel, not making them feel bad to it, and helping them understand the bigger context of the choice that we're working on. So both of those are happening. And so the same goes for us when we're working inside us is can we allow ourselves to have that grace of understanding that shows us why we're making the choices we're doing, what that's coming from the extent that we need to take that leap of faith and jump, right? And so from this place, we would be acting and connecting through self-respect. We would be having regards for ourselves, and we wouldn't also be just indulging parts of ourselves. So feel into this kind of scenario if it feels good to you. So the example that I like to give to clients when we start to talk about the subtleties of what respect is and what it isn't, and cleaning this up from I feel respected right now means I'm getting what I want. And separating that out from that, and it's more just saying that we have an understanding, we have regards. We don't diminish something, we don't dismiss it, we don't undermine it, but it also doesn't mean we indulge and comply and run from fear with something, right? I can acknowledge that I have a fear in something. It's another thing to let that fear dictate my choices. Hope you're starting to feel the difference. So the example that I like to give to people is like, think of when you have a moment where you call up your friend and you're like, hey, I'm just so frustrated right now. Do you mind if I just vent? I mean, you know that this ultimately is not that big of a deal. I get that and I know that, and I'm going to let this go. I just need to just one time, just blah, say what I want to say. Are you willing to do that? So, first off, when I set up that scenario, I didn't just dive in, right? I let my friend know that I need to get some, like, I need to move some energy through me about what parts of me feel. I'm not going to set up shop in them. I'm not really even asking them to do anything with it. I'm just asking for them to hold the space while I move that energy. And then that friend says, sure, no problem. Just, remember, don't direct it at me. And don't shoot the messenger kind of thing. And how do you want me to show up? Just want me to be that sounding board in that place? Do you want me to, offer some of my thoughts? What feels good to you? And so then the friend is now dialing in what is really that request? What is that person really asking them to do? And again, there's choice in all of this. That both parties have the ability to say yes, no, and maybe at any point. So if the friend says, you know what, I get it. I'm not going to really be that clear on that particular topic because I'm pretty fired up about that. So I might not be the best one. Now I'm giving informed consent. Like, hey, I might not be able to get to that clear and that neutral place. I might have a real opinion about that. So I might not be your best person to just vent for and move on because I don't know if I can maintain and hold that for myself. So again, I'm honoring where I'm at and what I'm at, and I'm giving myself the right to say yes, no, and maybe. And just imagine what that type of exchange would feel like. And eventually you kind of come to terms, and the person says, yeah, I'll start talking about it. You can stop me at any time and be like, okay, I can't go any farther because I'm going to lose balance and I won't take it personal. And then they go, great, this is amazing. And into the moment it goes, right? That would feel amazing. Hopefully, you have a relationship out there that has that level of respect, both for you internally and for the other. Now, let's imagine another scenario like wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. You do the same thing, call up a friend. Oh my gosh, I really want to tell you about something. And you get done. They're like, yeah, sure, vent away. No worries. I don't got anything that I'm doing right now. Let me have it. And then you let them have it. And and you're like, I know this is not that big of a deal, but I just need to say it. And they get done with it and they're like, yeah, that's right. That isn't that big of a deal. I mean, compared to what I'm working with right now, and off they go to the races, how would that exchange feel? You don't feel like they did have regards. They marginalized, they pushed aside. Did comparison and contrast, right? Which is one of those shadowy things that kind of gets us into the weeds because we can have similar experiences, but comparing experiences is even a risky road, right? So there's that version. What if they say to you, you get three words in and they say, "Stop, stop, stop. I really feel like you're just too angry for me right now, and I don't want you to bring that stuff for me. And I know I said that it was fine, but really, I just don't want to talk to you about this." And they like make it about you as a person. So instead of acknowledging their own system, that their own system loses balance with that, like what I was talking about earlier, they pass it back to you and somehow are trying to make you be responsible for bringing a topic to them that is beyond maybe their capacity. So then you end up feeling like maybe embarrassed or angry or disappointed, both unseen. And dare I say, it can then go down all the way to like an unworthiness of being able to talk or to share or what your thoughts were or your ideas are, right? So those are just simple little examples of how this works. And now remember, what if that friend that you're coming to is you? So what if there's a little part of you that tugs on your shoulder and is like, I have a concern, I have a question, I have a fear or a worry, or I don't know if I want to take this risk. And it's trying to dialogue with you, but you shut it down super fast. We all do this, right? And we marginalize it or we judge it. Oh my gosh, you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't think that way. Like, this is like horrible. I'm not even thinking and indulging that thought, right? Like, we get in this tug of war about worthiness and what's appropriate and what has what value over another, and we end up in like a problematic kind of extreme either way that we're going for it. So, we're going for that first scenario, not the second one, not the third one. But that first one is what we're seeking, right? That middle ground and the different way to work with ourselves and therefore others ultimately. Because once we have that balance in our inner world, again, the way that we can connect with every moment of our life in our outer world just expands. It gets huge, it gets amazing. of the way that we can feel about ourselves no matter what room we're in, even when we have a shakiness of this pillar, we can quickly come to it, remember that we have worth no matter what, and move from there. And one of my favorite quotes, and those that might be new to me as I try to bring a quote into each episode that I do and kind of build around it. The quote for this one came from Eleanor Roosevelt, who she just was such an amazing woman. And you think about the time frame that she was in and the causes that she championed and brought forward. And being a woman and talking about literacy was a huge thing for her and education during again that time frame is just quite it's quite amazing when you feel into her story and her energy. And she's quoted saying that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And to me, that is healthy self respect. When I remember and I feel inferior or humiliated or diminished or marginalized externally or internally from my own harsh inner critic or from somebody else's comment or opinion or projection of what I think they might be thinking, that this is a like a lifeline to hold back and recenter yourself and say, wait, nobody can diminish me. Nobody can make me feel inferior without my consent. Right? So this is an inside job. It's not somebody coming up next to you and bolstering you up and being like, you're amazing, you're worthy, you're great. Yes, that's great. That's great to have those friends. That's great to have somebody remind us. But this is in those quiet moments that this is an inner lifeline that we can pull on at any time that we feel a sense of shame or unworthiness or inferiority that we get the choice to either accept that as truth or to tell ourselves that that is just a projection. That is not me. That is not real. And um, while I might not be the quote top or the best, like I can own my own worth and that I can be a work in progress, right? I can have that quote humbleness to get that feedback and to work through maybe learning a new skill or doing something, but never making myself feel quote inferior, right? Never disrespecting or devaluing myself. So one of the top things that we work with clients is that ability to predict and believe in their own willingness to show up for themselves with self-respect. So using this quote as this is how I'm going to show up for myself. Even these parts of me that I deem unworthy, these parts of me that I wish I never made that choice and that Michelle had never shown up and like, why the heck does that one she's so weak, like, whatever it is that I've got going on of how I want to approach that part of me, that I stop myself, pull back, and say, "You know what? I'm not gonna make that part of me feel inferior. Instead, I'm gonna get curious. What's driving that?" When that Michelle said yes, when this Michelle would say no, what was happening in her world? Why didn't she feel that yes and a no and a maybe were things that she could switch between? What was happening? Like, how can I start to understand that version of myself better instead of judging it? And again, this doesn't mean giving myself everything that I want and demanding that other people give me what I want and what I wish and what I desire so that I feel good and therefore respected. Because quite frankly, that's just narcissism. That's the point of view that people are here to make me feel good. Spirit is here to make me feel good. Life is here to make me feel safe. Life is here to make me feel powerful. Like, no, like I'm letting all of that go and realizing again, this is an inside job. It's my job to accept that feeling or not. It's my job to establish a healthy feeling of sense of self. Or if I don't, I can't shop that out to anybody else, even my past, because right here, right now, I have the power to do that. Not even my past has the power to make me feel inferior. And this is a key concept on the healing journey because we all have a past. We all have versions of ourselves that we go, "What the WTF was I thinking?" "Why? Why did I make that choice?" Or, "Wow, that choice was so hurtful, hurtful to myself and hurtful to others." I call, like, my from, like, 14 to, 20, probably good old 20, 27, 28, somewhere in there. I call them the abuse years. Like, that was the years that I just abused myself. And then because I was abusing myself, it like set me up to like be in a place of weirdness with other people. It was just like abuse upon abuse upon abuse. It was like self-inflicted, inflicted from others, me inflicting on it was just a big old hot mess of that watered down version of hurt equals hurt. And when we're just in that, we're just running from that base survival tribalistic warfare amongst ourselves and to others, right? And so again, I don't want to look backwards at those aspects of me with like furrowed brow and hands on hips. It's like, okay, how can I look at them and seek what was driving her? What was happening with him? What was going on in that place? So that I can move from a different point of view, so that I'm not just following that old karmic groove, like a record groove of doing the same thing over and over without expecting, a different response. That's the definition of insanity. We don't want to do that, right? So when we're working with this, having healthy respect really means that I don't make parts of me feel bad. I don't make them feel wrong. Because I get to consciously choose, how do I want to move forward from this point? I don't make myself even feel inferior to my path, because at this point, sure, might I have to clean up some of that, quote, "spilled milk" from over here? Maybe, possibly, very real in the physical world. But from this point forward, I get to, quote Maya Angelou, "know better, do better." I get to choose, who do I want to be right now in this moment? How do I want to show up? And and the only thing that can diminish that version of me is me. It's not dependent on anybody else out there. And once this pillar comes online, you can feel it. Like the whole spine lifts. That psoas muscle from the middle of the body kind of tilts itself up in a nice, beautiful position. The shoulders and the upper chest cavity open. The hips kind of go from a collapse or a pushing to like a nice, just open and solid. And all of a sudden, you have this central column. All of a sudden, it feels like something can tug at me and I can, quote, find center again. I can come back. I can honor myself. I can be in there. So I have a simple little exercise, and this sounds so simple, and you've probably have heard this from maybe different mindset coaches and other things like that if you've been in the mental health therapy world. It's such a simple little topic, but it's a really fun practice to help us bring this awareness in a way that doesn't feel so like grippy. And it's simply starting to look at the words, "I'm sorry." How often do you use a version of "I'm sorry" in front of a sentence, text, email, talking to somebody? Where do you use it? What are you up to when you're using it? What part of you is using that? And really slow down here to give yourself to really sit with this inquiry. Even if you've done this before from another coach talking to you and giving you this example, I really want you to, quote, "take it for a walk," this whole week, in between sessions, if you watch these when they come out and work along the practices with us as we go through them each week, is really give yourself permission to notice just where it shows up, what it's up to, and if the words "I'm sorry" or "I apologize," or like you've already gotten savvy to that one, look at the word "just," a qualifier or another statement like that that like comes in and it's like, "So I'm just curious, like what is it that you're doing with that word 'just' and what is it up to?" What's it trying to do? And really feel into the subtleties around how is that like these words, I'm sorry or just, what are they up to? What are the statements or the feelings that you're trying to buffer and why? Right? Chances are um, there's something there because sometimes we can truly, genuinely be sorry. Oh my gosh, I did not realize, yada, yada, yada. But a lot of times, that's not how we're using these words and these phrases. We're using them for a very specific purpose. So just get curious. I'll give you a moment. Feel free to pause. What is happening in and around your body with these different parts? As I'm just even asking you, and I just did it, as I'm asking you to look at these little words, these common phrases, and start to get curious about how they're really showing up and impacting you and what they're doing. To quote another quote from John Kabat-Zinn, that we started off this whole series with is the little things are not that little, right? Like these are not little things. Actually, energetically, they're huge with what we're up to with them. So I'm gonna pop ahead, pause this if you don't want me to give you some of the top three things of what I have found over the years of giving this exercise to now at this point hundreds and hundreds of people and helping them walk through this, including myself over and over and over again. So the first one, the number one thing that these words are typically up to is appeasement. They are indulging somebody else's egoic wounds or that like I said, that defensiveness. They didn't have healthy self-esteem. They had self-defensive mechanisms, right? And so we use these words, I'm sorry or just or um we have these little qualifiers that we put out there. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to build a buffer to appease and kind of walk around and work around these wounded parts of ourselves, these protective habits in ourselves and others. And then when we are saying something that might go against what somebody personally or egoically wants or wishes, right? Either in my own or somebody else's. So this really can come in many different forms. Excuse me. It can come in shadow pity, for example, is one of the main ones where we desire to look welcoming and validating. Oh, I'm just trying to like just ask a question. I know you might be super overwhelmed right now. And so sorry if I'm coming in here and adding one more thing to it. Like, is that real? Is that really what we're up to? Or do we want to simply acknowledge, like, hey, I realize that you are feeling really overwhelmed right now, and while I have complete sympathy for that and can imagine what that's like for you, I also need to get this piece or this point of view or this statement or this request in here as well. More than happy to help you work with it however we can. And I'm also saying that. So feel the difference. One's like, "Mm," and then the other one's like, here it is. Here's the request that I'm coming with. I'm honoring what's here. I'm also honoring what else is happening. And I'm also asking, how do we want to work through this? So it's not like a your way or highway, my way kind of a thing. It's I'm willing to work. And again, if this is an internal discussion, now I'm willing to work with a part of me that is struggling, right? Additional ones that can be in there is that we feel like somehow responsible for causing discomfort to somebody. So we're trying to buffer that. That's a trauma response. Like, I know what I'm about to say to you is going to go against what you want. So therefore, I'm going to try to buffer that by kind of, quote, slicing my own arm first and be like, look, I'm bleeding. So don't, don't shoot the messenger kind of a thing. Right. Either way, we're on a different path and then where our heart or our soul with really direct lines of communication and connecting would invite us to be. So that's one. The other one that's kind of was in the top hits when I have accumulated all these ones over the year is that we're claiming a thought or perspective or a feeling as me. And this is an interesting one because this is where we use the word "I'm sorry" in front of, "Well, I'm sorry, but this is just what I really feel. This is my inner knowing. This is my whatever." And so we're using that apology so that we can claim our own thought, perspective, and idea as ourselves, right? We're trying to identify, this is me. This is me planting my thing. This is my thought. This is my idea. This is my need. This is my want. And what we do when we do that, we're doing two things. One, we're subtly trying to buffer again with that, "I'm sorry if this offends you," kind of a thing, which, is just shadowy in itself. But 2, we're also then latching on to that one thing as me, meaning if somebody attacks it or somebody doesn't agree with it, now I'm in a power struggle with, they don't agree with me. So instead of allowing myself to, like, say, like, "Hey, here's what I'm getting right now. Here's what I'm feeling. Here's where I'm at," and that can be movable. We're locking in, but it's not from a solid perspective of my heart and my soul locking in. We're locking in from a protective mechanism. We're locking in from a place and a point of view that says, "This is who I am, and I'm willing to defend this to the bitter end." And I will ratchet myself into all shades of pretzels and everything else like that to defend this, because this is me, this is who I am, this is my truth, this is the truth. And then we're stuck. Now we're in a win or lose battle with somebody else. We've lost that very first thing that I talked about, which is saying, "Hey, I can be me, you can be you, and we can have two different truths, and both can be respected and honored at the same time." All that ability to be in that non-attachment goes completely out the window, and now we're locked in. We're defaulted down to that dualistic win or lose point of view, and we end up disrespecting ourselves. We end up disrespecting parts of ourselves. We end up disrespecting others. It just kind of all goes out the window. So the other one, it kind of works with the "I'm sorry," but it really kind of goes more in the words like "just," or "so I was only thinking about dot dot dot," like any of those phrases that get us into that one. And this is that sense of false humility and false humbleness. "Oh, this is just no big deal. I mean, I don't really care where we eat. I'm just so simple. It's so fine. I really am a go with the flow kind of person. It's just you just make that call for you because, it's just little old me." I'm kind of exaggerating that statement, but you can feel how we've all made those types of statements, right? And what are we really up to? No, we probably have an opinion, we probably have a want. We probably have a desire. The question is, do we think we have a strong enough connection with somebody to claim it? Do we think that we're safe if we claim that? Do we think that that somebody might come after us if we do have an opinion, a thought, an idea, right? So we disavow ourselves from our opinions and our thoughts to the point where sometimes we genuinely don't think we have an opinion. Um, and we end up like stuck in this like false piety kind of a thing. And then again, what we're really doing is making ourselves inferior. We're not really truly stepping into that place that says, "Hey, I would love Thai food tonight, but I'm actually, I'm not super married to it. And so if there's a place that you are really feeling guided to, then I don't mind at all doing that. And then we can circle back around to Thai food another night." Right. So, but one is, it's risky because now I put out a thought, I put out an idea. And what if I don't allow myself to, what if I'm going to feel bad? What if I'm going to write a story that, like, I said I like Thai food, but yet somebody said they wanted some just good old, Southern food. And so we end up saying yes, but in reality, I didn't really mean it. I wanted Thai food and I wanted them to want it with me so that they would show me that they would respect. So I would find that little wounded part in that conversation. And sometimes we don't want to know. We don't want to know about those parts of us. We don't want to know about those things. So we hide behind, again, this false humbleness and humility. It's really not real, that really gets us into this really sticky shadow dance, and ultimately working with a lot of resentment behind the scenes, and a lot of feeling of like, well, their opinion matters more than me. They had a bigger, like, we start justifying it, like they had a more stressful day than I did. Something that gives a hierarchy as to why we null and voided our voice right off the bat, or somebody else null and voided the right off the bat. But true, this one is usually an inside job. We usually do this to ourselves. And where does that come from? All of these are born out of trauma responses, by the way. So be kind. Again, take your shoes off on sacred ground when we're coming in here. So where do we start to kind of help us avoid these traps, right? This is the great question. This is the question that a heartfelt question can open up that grace that is already within and around us and start allowing us to quote cook with that grace, right? So I have a simple adaptation to the exercise that's often given in spiritual circles, that is called a welcoming. I welcome. So this is based off of that Rumi's guest house thing of like, I welcome that. Most of the times when people are teaching a welcoming, I welcome the pain in my shoulder. I welcome um, the sorrow in my heart. I welcome that we're saying it and we're quickly moving on. What we're really asking with that welcoming, and a lot of times when I've coached people through adaptation and seeing this practice to be more in the lines with what I call the sacred witness, or in lines with a true healing approach, where it's a practice, not just an appeasement to the system, is we're willing to welcome and be with as it is, not just simply giving a nod to it and watching it like a surface, like a cloud floating across the sky, but I'm willing to be with that. I'm willing to let it talk if it wants to talk. I'm willing to breathe with it. I'm willing to be in connection with it, not just saying, I welcome you. I know you're here. And now let's move on. Let me numb myself out to it. Like, that's not a true welcoming. And so what I recognized and it was like, oh, I need to teach people to sort and to dialogue, right? To like, and so I call this the welcoming sorting. If you were out at the in person with me, we would have all these little pieces of paper that we would write these things down on, and then have three hula hoops on the ground, and we would work through this process a little bit. But we're going to give you an abbreviated version of it for the podcast. So, like I said, this is not the idea of just labeling, because that's what welcoming has turned into. I'm just labeling. I'm noticing, labeling, and releasing. Noticing, labeling, and releasing. We want to notice, allow it to name itself, and be with, and then allowing that one to then direct us of what it needs next. So instead of me just trying to move through that body scan with just noticing and saying a quote welcome to try to get me to what I'm ultimately, when I'm up to those types of things, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to appease it. I'm trying to say, yeah, 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 I see you. Okay, now you can sit down. Now I've let you go. It's a subtle but yet very loud marginalizing of something in our system. What I'm asking you to do is something very different. What I'm asking you to do with this exercise, just like with the I'm sorry, is I'm asking you to notice, be with, welcome it when it's there, like, oh, I see that that's here. Now let me soften and let me open to, can you share a little bit more? Like, what would you like me to know about why this word needs to be here? Like, what will happen if this word isn't here? I'm willing to dialogue and to be with that versus trying to rewrite it right off the bat. The difference of this one is when we can work with it this way, when we are ready to let something go, it's not us that lets go, because the image that I always give is sometimes we do this, and the wounded survival part of us is holding on for dear life, and then we're trying, now we're in this process where I'm trying to shake it off and it's trying to be like velcro onto me, and it's going to get grippy and it's going to try to hook itself in and hold on for all of dear life and be like, look, 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 I let go. And it's true because you opened your hand, but this piece is not letting go. Right. And so, how do we help this piece realize that it no longer has to fight for your safety and your survival the way it is? How do we help it soften and feel that there's something there to hold it while it realizes it doesn't need to be there anymore, and then it lets go on its own, right? What would that feel like? That's kind of what we're up to. And if it can't let go, how do we best help support it in a way that it doesn't so drive us and interfere with our current everyday working in a way that is not based off of our heart's energy and what it is. So we're not trying to calm something down. We're not trying to move it from point A to point B. We're not trying to change it. We're not trying to simply just dismiss it into nothingness, such as, oh, that's just a thought and devaluing it. We're not trying to dumb it down all the way to the science side of this is just a firing of synapses, therefore that we can rewrite and reprogram and it doesn't have any purpose. We're knowing that everything that we're up against, that there's, or that we're feeling we're up against, there's a reason for it. There's a reason for that sensation. There's a reason for why the body's doing what it's doing. There's a reason for why the mind is up to what it's up to. And if we just honor that right off the bat, then we're more willing to connect. Then we're more willing to be with, and we can have respect for it and it for us because we're coming at it from a place of true curiosity and connection instead of trying to just annihilate it, push it through, compare it and contrast and do all those things that we talked about before. Right. So the process of sorting is pretty simple. And it goes with those four stages of creation. Am I willing to see and connect with that spark or sensation that I'm feeling and acknowledge it in present time? There is motive to my madness as to why I go in what order I go. And so in a season, because I kind of run it like a 12-part course, even though they're standalone episodes among their own right. But step one of sorting is I want to see. I have that spark that I say yes to, that I am willing to get to know where this is coming from, both in the present time and in the past. And then from that place, am I willing to engage and connect with it as it is? Do I come in trying to shift it, judge it, change it, get it to calm down, rationally justify why it's there? All these things. And when I just say, "Hi, how are you?" Now tell me who, what, when, where, why, and how. Like am I just pushing really quickly through that? Or am I truly allowing that to engage with me from its point of view, with me honoring it, having regards for it. It has its own thoughts, feelings, wants, wishes, and desires, and I'm not going to string it up on the nearest like thing, a rack, and like stretch it and torture it for having its own point of view. Like that's not appropriate. Can I treat myself differently? And am I willing to let go? So not be in the place where if you don't talk to me or if you don't change or if you don't show me that, am I willing to let go of all of that? Am I willing to let go of what I think should be happening with it? Am I willing to let go of my fear of what if it doesn't change and I've slowed down and I've looked at it and it does me no good? Am I willing to let that go? So am I willing to let go of the ways that I think it's supposed to work, and can I open to what is actually happening? Right. And then that opens us then to the fourth one, is like that allows me to give birth to a new way of being with myself and with this part of me, and opening up for it to have a phoenix moment, to transform and transmute from the form it was stuck in, that it didn't know how to get out of, and let it release, let it go through its different stages of its fears, its worries, its concerns, its hurt, its pain, and open to love and compassion, right? And so once we're able to do that, that's the power that the true version of welcoming has. not from just that watered down mindfulness version that says, "Oh, I see you. Okay, great. Now I'm letting you go." Like that's a skill for sure. But what we're talking about is like that ability to really be with, and to begin to sort through what is present time, what is past, and what is a future fear, and what part of me is feeling that way, and what is that up to, and whose voice is this, and where did this voice come from, and what is it up to. So the easiest way to work with this is through a topic. So you can do the body scan or something like that, or you can just go back to the original thing that I said, which is the thing of looking at the words "I'm sorry" or the word "just" or something like that. Where is it showing up? What is it up to? And what is it doing? So this week, I invite you to set that intention that as you move throughout this week, just to be aware of how you might be having regards for yourself. How do you start to dialogue with yourself? Where are you giving yourself permission to have a thought be a thought, to have a feeling be a feeling, to have a want to be a want, a need be a need, and being curious about what is that spark, right? That first of the four-part process of like, oh, welcome. I feel that thought. I feel that need. I feel that emotion. I don't know yet whose it is, what it's up to, or where it's coming from, but I'm willing to connect with it and to see what it is. I'm willing to just let it be exactly what it is, and I open to a conversation. So I'm willing to let go of what I think should or shouldn't be happening. I'm willing to let go of my preconceived ideas of what is and is not happening. And I'm willing to let that which I'm witnessing inform me. And when I can move through that door, when I've been able to sort through those different stages of that information that I get, then I get to really choose, is this something I want to continue with, or is this something I want to transform and transmute and move from a new way of being, from a new choice, from a new thought, from a new idea, from a new emotion. I get to actually release the old form and step into something new. And so this is that full circle of that four-part series that I just did, kind of coming together and being in fruition. And to me, that is the idea of true self-respect, because I'm respecting who I am right now in this moment. I can honor who I was 2.5 seconds ago. I can honor that I'm going to be becoming somebody different. But when I have truly healthy self-respect, I have the ability to say to my heart and to my soul, help me show up in a way that's in alignment with who I'm actually asking to be right now, where I this has merit and value and worth, and I don't allow that to be inferior to anything, because that is the truth. That is that guidance. That is that quote door that is open within me to be able to move through that love, to move from that joy, um, and move from that regards for who I truly am, not who I've been conditioned to believe I am, not who I think I am, and not who I am judging I should be, but who is being asked to show up right now in this moment. And if for some reason I blow past that moment, I'm always worthy to soften, to pause, to welcome, and ask that question again. That's the intention for this week. That's the practice for this week. I'd love to hear how that goes. And I'll see you in the next one. Offering you light, love, and joy, Michelle. Thank you for listening to Soulful Practices. For more information on how to work directly with me or one of my guests, check out the show notes below. We'd love for you to also let us know what parts of this episode are speaking to you and how this practice is supporting you on your healing and spiritual journey. Please share this podcast with fellow seekers, travelers. Together, we can create a wave of soul-led beings in this world, offering you light, love, and joy on your journey. Michelle Holling-Brooks. Until next time.